Prophetic words of sacred ancestral wisdom have been given to us as preparation for these times.
Can you feel the movement in the air? If you don't focus, you won't know it's there. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, nowhere changing tide, changing tide.
Over 20 years ago, High Priest Kwatamani, Supreme Soothsayer, Soul Seer, Spiritual Healer, and Chief Elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis Tribe, dropped a little line about these earth-shifting, changing times upon Mama Earth. You could call it a change of tide, and no man can stop the tide.
Tornadoes and desert storms, know for a fact that you have been warned. Mental, physical, sickness and disease, spirit ripped and torn. Cartoon doom, the baby boom. Generation X, hooked on porn. And out of this, the crack baby would be born. It's starting to get hot up on the earth, and the polar bear is starting to bite the dirt.
We join High Priest Kwatamani, Supreme Soothsayer, Soul Seer, Spiritual Healer, and Chief Elder of the Kwatamani First Genesis Tribe as he speaks to the sacred ancestral collective entity of femininity within sisterhood.
Kabon. Oyami wa akwa. Kabon. Supreme thanks, praise, and appreciation to the most supreme seen and unseen essence of masculine and feminine energy, the gift of life that has been embodied within we, he and she, of humanity. Madasi, Madasi, Madasi. Earlier today, I called the brothers to have a brotherhood session on a few very important, pertinent matters. So I'm calling the sisterhood because beyond the shadow of a doubt, the feminine she is the birthplace of all of we, he and she.
Quote, there is a prophetic, earth-shifting movement of whole life energy that is once again seeding and birthing a consciousness of higher peace upon the planet Earth. End of quote. Taken from the prophetic 12,594-year Banu cycle, encoding the consciousness of higher peace through the divine union of masculine and feminine energy. Book 1 by High Priest Kwatamani, release date 11/11/2011.
We know clearly and beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is an impossibility for any creative force to manifest outside of the sacred ancestral feminine essence. Therefore, anyone who's talking monotheistic ideology is simply dealing with the delusions and illusions of egomania.
Quote, higher peace is expressed in connection with life-affirming family-community relationships, whether one is a mate, father, mother, son, daughter, sister, or brother, within the realities and challenges of family-community order. There is no solitary male or female who can do this thing alone. There is no higher peace within the isolated and separated existence of egotistical individualism. End of quote. From the inner womb of supreme femininity, forwarding the expressions of the Kwatamani World Sisterhood, taken from Banu Book 1.
Early today, when I and I awoke, we went to check something. And when we checked, we met something that was just really kind of shocking.
The scope of the disaster was masked by darkness. It was Libyan TV that later showed the true devastation. Entire neighborhoods wiped out by sudden catastrophic flooding. Heavy rains from a weekend Mediterranean storm led to the collapse of 2 dams, sending torrents of water racing toward everything in its path.
The devastation, the shocking, quick-moving actions that actually define death within the toxic parallel has swept through and they were talking the possibilities of 10,000 or more lives lost. The reality is, unless we focus our whole life energy on the soul-to-soul essence of who we be, and unless we take that focus and give supreme thanks, praise, and appreciation to our embodiment, to the embodiment of our sacred ancestral mother, Mother Earth, and the embodiment and respect of those elements of wind, rain, and sun, then we sink into a vibration of self-deified individualism, where the only thing that matters is the body instead of the wholeness of soulness. Now the bodies of so many were snatched away like that. We feel that because we're all interconnected as sacred ancestral kin. And it is a time for us to do something to make sure that a sacred, I say a sacred, again, a sacred few of the few of the few of the few come through this thing and come through it with a greater sense of holistic living consciousness. Yesterday, we awoke Morocco.
We begin with the rising death toll from Morocco, where many residents are struggling to find food and are now sleeping outdoors after that devastating 6.8 earthquake. New images tonight from Marrakesh. They show the moment the quake hit. People run for cover as the shaking begins. The surveillance camera is quickly obscured. Rescue teams are still searching through the rubble. Our team traveled to the mountains near the epicenter. Entire villages leveled.
The violent shaking sending crowds running in Marrakesh. Then suddenly, debris raining down.
Just a few days difference, like 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, in numerical time. That was in Greece.
Monsoons in Bangladesh, have been typhoons in Hong Kong, and this was worse than anything I've ever seen before. All day long.
Now all of you know that I have a piece that was sent out years ago. And that piece, just piecemealing, dealing with the urgent need for healing, feeling the feeling of humanity dealing with the impending 9/11, prophecy, AD 2027, dealing with what is in store
as we prepare to enter the door of what will be AD 2024. The sleeper, where the gatekeeper is the grim reaper. Yeah, dealing with the zips and the zaps as the stakeholder gets even bolder and colder while he suck, sapping and trap, dealing with rapping this rap as a roadmap out of the insanity of pale vanity, dealing with the obstacles along the way that prevent a sacred view from hearing what the I and I have to say. But the ancestors say it anyway.
We have to really deal with what is it that we can do. Whatever we're going to do, whatever is going to happen at this point in time, it is not going to happen unless it comes through the birthplace, the womb of femininity. So you all become exceptionally important to the survival of humanity. Obviously, when we look and listen at the nonsense that's going on out in the general public, especially among certain populations who should have all of their mental, physical, and spiritual focus on resurrecting green earth solar consciousness, giving glory to the melanin-encoded presence that brings forward the fruits of the tree of life. And that we, man, he and she, is indeed a part of the sacred ancestral tree of life. So, as far as what we need to do, it should be very clear. It should be very clear. Divine social, economic, family, community order is, in fact, the key, the essence, the law the primary reason for our existence. That's a difficult task when you're dealing with those who feel business as usual. It's a difficult task when you're dealing with those who have no respect for the sacred ancestral feminine she, except as a place to dump his waste or her fantasy. We must begin to realize that we must focus on gathering a sacred few of the few of the few. When I talked with the Brotherhood today, and I made it very clear to them that we have a responsibility. We are, in fact, a key in that birth process. Not to say that the feminine is in all of birth. That's insanity, delusion, fantasy, double insanity. We, the masculine he, have to take and develop ways and means of consuming as much of the whole life energy as is possible to cause our sperm to be so potent that it can carry the DNA of the mitochondrial mother to the utmost degree. The greatest gift that each and every one of us have is to focus on this feeding, seeding, and breeding a new consciousness, a green earth solar consciousness. We have to focus on expansion. However, we cannot expand toxic disorder. We cannot plus and minus. It's got to be a plus, 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 which takes a lot of work. And that's where we are at. We have to realize that our sacred temple, and we got to teach that. We got to get that into the mindset of a sacred few, the few, the few among the feminine sheep. Their bodies can no longer be used for the momentary pleasure of some kind of romantic sex game. Their bodies cannot be used to breed offsprings that cause a single mother walking around in anger and hostile aggression and bitterness and scornfulness because she feels that she was misused. Down, I've been told so many times that, wow, you all are so different. How do you do it? What about the parties? You don't have time to go and party? Wow, why you don't allow your daughters to date? I mean, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with a little fun? It's a game to you. It's a holistic living way of life to us. We have obligations to Mother Earth, wind, rain, and sun. We owe it to the sacred ancestral elders. We must manifest this first Genesis consciousness as it was in the beginning of holistic living reality, so it has emerged again into holistic living reality. First Genesis is first beginning. And it was clear that we were manifested as plant-consuming, tree-of-life beings. Therefore, it is clear that our primary focus was a higher peace conscious focus. Respect, order, the principles of Ma'at. We have no time to do the same thing that has shown to be suicidal, conflicting, contradicting, over and over and over again, yet expecting a different result, something other than conflict, confusion, and chaos. We comprehend the ancestral teachings. We know full well the nature of the second Genesis mindset. And we know that self-deified individualism manifested when he ripped and tore out the womb of his mother. We can no longer perpetuate anything that relates to that mindset. If, in fact, it has been said, it must stop pumping the blood fuel out of Mother Earth. It's common sense that you can't continue to drain out fluids from the ancestral mother and expect for her to remain in place and intact. We know that there are those who are so for the moment that they really do not care. I heard someone say, oh, well, I probably will be gone by that time anyway. So I might as well bust hell wide open right now, baby. There are some things that I want to do before I die. It sounds so insane. Yet that's the reality. The reality about war culture, the reality about nuclear weapons, the reality about just having respect for each other, he and she, regardless of skin color and tone, because clearly and beyond the shadow of a doubt, no, it is not about the color of one's skin, but rather about the state of consciousness that one lives within. This is why there are so many within a state of consciousness that have different tones and etc. That's actually a reflection of toxic insanity, because one has assimilated, integrated, and adopted a nature diametrically opposed to divine order, diametrically opposed to divine social, economic, family, community order, diametrically opposed to the divine union of masculine and feminine energy, he and she. Therefore, we must begin a process of recovery. And I'm saying this to each and every one of you simply because it needs to be said in a broader mass. It's clear that we have come to those realizations over the years. It's clear that our presence within this tropical rainforest jungle is not just a holiday or a weekend venture, that this is our holistic living way of life required by our sacred ancestral soulful essence within this sojourn that each and every one of us have. And some of the few have to come to the realization that we need to breed, seed, and feed a new consciousness to replace that is on its way out. This is a big planet. We're talking about 10,000 people that was just lost in one area, one deluge. We're talking about 3,000 or more in another deluge. We're talking continuous and ongoing drops of populations. So therefore, we should at least get a focus of putting 1% of a new breed of consciousness up on the earth based on those factors. So we're really talking about something very simple. It's not a numbers game. The basic reality is, as the male, as the masculine he, we must come to realization that each one of us have a divine, natural, and innate duty, obligation, responsibility to carry a mighty load, and that we don't have time to waste our sperm cells playing sex games. Insanity. Our circumstances tell us very clearly that we must work with the divine laws of Mother Earth, Mother Nature, divine law. We're not having a difficulty with that. The difficulty is that we have to make very, very, very sure that any soul who passed the gate of entry into this nature must be clear about those facts, because we are not here to breed the wilderness vibration. This is the sacred garden culture, nature of energy. This is not the Genesis 2, blood-spilling, flesh-consuming, warlording nature of energy. It's time to dispel that curse. There's so much toxicity out there. There's so many who've already been contaminated with sickness, disease, and disorder. And when you get to the idea of dealing with those things that interrelate to the promiscuous behaviors, we all have to be very clear that we don't know who's the carrier. And since we don't know who's the carrier, we must establish our barrier. What I'm saying is this: what happens if we open our doors to those who carry sexually transmittable disease and other factors of such, and they come in and contaminate all these years of work? It is very important for us to realize that your own health, safety, and well-being is at stake. No question about it. Each person that comes into this divine social, economic, family, community order, be it he or she, even the children, primarily, be it that adult male or that adult female, should go through some kind of discovery, some kind of testing process that will be able to pinpoint what he or she is carrying. That's just all it is to it. That's what we have to do. Because the promiscuity and all of the other factors, although it is not part of our way of life, it is a part of the way of life in the wilderness culture. So we have to be very cautiously aware. Yet and still, we know that we must be a part of gathering a divine and sacred few. What a task. So this particular communications, I put forward to the sacred ancestral mother spirit, and let the most supreme spirit of love be our guide. Are there any questions? We are unquestionably talking about selective mate relationships. We're talking about selectively breeding, feeding, and seeding a new consciousness. If we do not, we're wasting our time. And we don't have the time to waste. 2027, they're saying now. 2024 is the doorway, just a few months away. The grim weeper keeper vibration is the sleeper. And we had better know that all along, the grim weeper keeper sleeper has been a peeper to see what are we doing. The divine social, economic, family, community order is a dynamic reality. And what we have to focus on is that sense of loyalty, humility, patience, respect, and break all those codes of sexual violation, violence, war, and crime that have lurked within those minds. So when we encounter, we have to comprehend that anyone who's coming from the wilderness mindset comes with these factors, consciously and or subconsciously. Therefore, we have to be about the work of detox, purging, and healing, which requires patience, tolerance. Yet, we must not get into any vibration that don't hold these laws up. Be clear of this sacred principle. If it don't fit in divine order, don't force it. However, if it fit within divine order, goodness be with it. Life is for the living. And we have to perpetuate a holistic living way of life. That's why we are embodied as sacred ancestral souls. And we must perpetuate this soul-to-soul recovery, quick, fast, and in a hurry, for the sake of the few, the sacred few, for the sake of humanity.
The ancestors say
spoken loud and clear, soul to soul and codes for those sincere. Prophecy, my odd decree, karma, not conspiracy. Two entirely different natures of energy. One hell-bent on mind control, the other encoded to empower the soul. Let truth be told, a sacred few must yield to divine will. In tune to blossom and bloom, to seed and feed a green earth solar conscious breed.
You were wonderful. Adasi.